When we invest in ourselves, we all shine. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
All right, folks, welcome back to the culture here on the Black Star Network. As you see, I am outside today as we're just doing a lot of moving around here. So I thought, hey, let's do the show from outside. I see my big brother Roland. He does from so many different places. I was like, let me follow in his footsteps a little bit out here in beautiful Los Angeles, California. But folks, look, we are having a conversation. I wanted to discuss something else. Now I'm talking from national politics to something that's statewide that we're seeing now. We all know that this is the time of year where folks across the country are getting ready to go back to school. There's a lot of trepidation about what is going to happen in this year's school year, considering everything still with COVID, now with monkeypox. But more importantly, folks are getting prepared. School districts across the country are getting prepared to look at where we are in two areas. One is the national teacher shortage. We've had a conversation about that. But then the other part of it is school safety. And in light of all of the mass shootings that we've had across this country, and the one of the most hateful mass shootings, the one that we saw in Uvalde, Texas, just a few months ago, there is great concern about the safety and preservation of students in the schools. And so now the conversation about arming teachers has resurfaced, folks. And now it looks like one state is already moving forward. North Carolina, the sheriff down there in North Carolina is stocking schools with AR-15s. Folks, I'm not even making this up. AR-15s, the sheriff down in North Carolina, and I want to pull up I want to share with you what the sheriff had to say in this one county. But he has gone to 6 schools and dropped AR-15s right at the schools, placed them in a safe, and he has ensured both the staff, the teachers, the administrators, the community, and the media that folks are trained to know how to use the AR-15s that's located in their school. Let me share with you what the sheriff had to say. Check this out, Keenan. Let's post that one. Spurred by the elementary school shooting in Uvalde that left 19 children and 2 teachers dead in May, school officials in Madison County Sheriff Buddy Harwood have placed one of the semi-automatic rifles in each of the county's 6 schools. Each of the guns will be locked inside of a safe, according to the Sheriff Harwood. He said, quote, "Those officers were in that building for so long, and that suspect was able to infiltrate that building and injure and kill so many kids." He told the Asheville Citizen-Times, he said, "I just want to make sure my deputies are prepared in the event that happens." Wow. Wow. Sheriff Harwood has decided to take matters in his own hands. And he said, bump the national conversation, bump the concerns that teachers have about having a gun in the school, bump the fact that you might have a student that may get access to that gun, bump the fact that, that even though you have training, it still requires more training, that once a situation really does happen, person's human instinct, their nerves, and all of that can kick in a moment of fear. All of that. Bump all of that. Let's put an AR-15 in the school, put it in a safe, and make sure that we protect our children. Now, on one end, here's the thing, and I want to bring back my culture crew. We've now been joined by Iman Heath, who is an entrepreneur and an activist, and we have been talking to Lise Winnie, who is the host of Millennials Anonymous podcast. Ladies, Iman, good to see you again, sis. Thank you so much for joining us. All right, so here's the thing. On one end, I get where the sheriff is coming from. I think he makes a valid point, right? Like the way, we all know about the great fumble of Uvalde. We know that 350 plus officers, 19 children were still killed by the hands of one man, even though you got 350 plus officers on the scene. Mm-hmm. We understand that should never, ever happen again. I'm totally with you there, Sheriff. Where I'm stopping the car at, Iman, where I'm pumping the brakes a little bit is you dropping a semi-automatic weapon in the school, man.
I disagree. I think it's this is a be damned if you do, be damned if you don't situation. But I do feel it's better to be proactive than to be reactive. Even though this will require more training, I would rather them be prepared for that situation than, as we saw, police waiting outside until they feel better, or I looked at it as things died down. How can you do that when you have a hostile situation like that? But I think it's much better. But I do think this should require teachers to take a psych test just to see where that mental health is, because on the opposite end of this, even though it is there to keep students safe or help in that situation if it happens, you do have these manic teachers who, if they get to a certain point, they may lose it and snap. And next thing you know, they have the AR-15, they're used as a weapon against the children or other teachers. You don't know where people's mental health is these days. So I think it's a hard scale to weigh, but I would rather have them in the school rather than not.
All right, so why not put them in a place like if a person is coming into a school like we saw with with Ramirez down in Uvalde. He came into the school. It only took him a matter of minutes to do the damage that he did, right? It wasn't a long time. So I'm thinking, even if the gun is this AR-15 is in the main office, to have the instinct to run to the office, to risk moving around when you have an active shooter on campus, to run to the office, unlock the safe, go through the whole process, load up the gun. Now you going after her. Are you going after this active shooter? Are you like the plan seemed very, the plan seemed patchwork to me.
So what would be, there's no other solution than to have officers there on the outside. We've seen that. We've seen them on the outside do a damn thing.
But every officer, and that would be my solution. If my solution is, if teachers are running to get the gun, it's a chaotic situation, right? And my solution is, if you have in Baltimore, we had resource officers, individuals, they were like school police, right? But a little bit more tampered down, but they had the certain skills to deal with things. My point is, you have people who work on these school sites that can handle a situation like that, right? Because the teachers, you can't put that on the teacher. I mean, that's just one, it's not fair. And two, they're not trained for that type of stuff.
I agree. I think that teachers do too much. We have our teachers
too much
being social workers. Now they have to also be nutritionists to make sure that children who are nut free and all, like, we put way too much on our teachers. And honestly, I think even having the gun there, the issue with Uvalde wasn't the lack of firepower. It was the fact that you had officers on the scene who were too afraid to do their job. And then they had leadership who were not trained properly to get them there and do what they needed to do in an effective, strategic manner. That was the problem. So it's not the lack of weaponry. It's not the lack of officers. All of those things would not have helped Uvalde because they were all there. They had shields and they stayed there until they got the call from their superior to go in. It was a bad decision and a bad call. I will say with schools, what they need to do is, of course, make those schools more secure, because I think he got in through an unlocked door. But we also need to not say that a good guy with a gun is going to stop a bad guy with a gun, because that is just not true. Now we have more guns, more weapons in schools, and I don't know if I feel comfortable with that.
I don't feel comfortable with that. I don't feel comfortable with that, to be honest with you. I mean, this is 6 schools, right? So this is a small county, right? So this is 6 schools, but it's just still the fact that you don't have the proper training for this. You don't have a situation where a teacher, I mean, it's to your point, Lisa, it's just too much. It's too much. And there was an op-ed that I read, saw that in the New York Times, where a teacher was saying that she did not want to, I mean, given COVID, given everything that we already dealing with, the last thing she wants to do is have a gun near the students and her workplace. Right. Like if, and I think to your point, Iman, you were saying, well, what else can be done? Well, teach go through the drill, go through the practice. If an active shooter comes on the school site, what do you do? Lock the door, get underneath the desk, don't say anything, stay quiet, listen to one person. Put those type of policies and procedures in place versus, hey, man, try to be a superhero, try to be a member of SWAT, try to be a member of some tactical team and arm yourself. And then what?
I definitely agree it shouldn't be a responsibility on teachers. You're right. But the article said it would be for the resource officers to use. So I definitely agree. Teachers already have too much to do. You shouldn't add that to their plate, and then that's more training. They already don't get paid enough. I completely understand. But for resource officers, I think that would be a better or helpful tool just in case of those situations. I don't have children, so I can't put a personal attachment to it, but I would think if I did have them, I would much rather the officers on the inside have the right weapons to be able to defeat it. Like Lee said, a good guy is not going to always essentially stop the bad guy. You're absolutely right. However, I would much rather them be prepared to, just in case it happens, rather than, damn, I wish we would have let them have those AR-15s. Damn, I wish we would have let them have a Glock. No, let's be proactive rather than remorse after the situation happens. Or what?
I wonder. Yeah, go ahead, Lisa.
I agree with that. We need to be proactive. We have red flag laws. He shouldn't have ever had that gun in the first place. If they would have had those rules in place, he wouldn't have gotten them. The same thing with Buffalo. They had red flag laws in New York and they did not use them. We have all of these things in place that will stop people who should not have guns, who are mentally unstable, from accessing them. But yet they are able to go through these loopholes and get these weapons anyway. I agree that if you have officers in the school, it will make you feel safer, or it could even lead to some levels of safety. But there's some issues that also go along with that, and having additional officers on the scene, especially in low-income African-American communities, which we have seen. So it doesn't always come out better. And then don't officers have rifles in their cars? Like, can we keep them?
I thought they had handguns too.
And you don't need an AR-15 in order to kill a subject. But
go ahead, Iman, you on mute.
Per usual. Some officers, I do know, they do keep, they are able to keep their weapon on them. But most times, from my research, they have their own office. They have to keep the ammunition in one area, just like you would if you at home and had a firearm. You can't have it in the same. It can't be inside of the gun unless it's actual police officer. Here in Baltimore County, Baltimore City police officer. You can't have ammunition out of the gun. So it wouldn't make sense to me. Oh, it's active shooter. Let me run outside real quick, go to my car, get my rifle, then run back in and see what the situation at. To me, that just doesn't logically make sense. Now, when it comes to gun laws, and like we've said before, it's all about the money. I do not see the government in no type of way adding more stipulations to who can have a gun, and who can't. I just don't see it happening because of the money that guns bring in. It's not going to happen. I don't see it happening no time soon.
It may not happen. It may not happen. And you know what? The way that these Republicans are thinking, shit.
Hell,
look. Let's not hold our breath for any common sense legislation to come down the pipe anytime soon around guns. I'm just not. Mm-hmm. If we waiting on them to do it, that's not going to happen.
Well,
that's not going to happen.
Gun legislation passed or this year, but I think that what we need to do is have more open conversations about this, about how and the why, because more than just having people that can, have more weaponry. And I'm not saying that it's not the solution. My thing is that we got to this point, and there were people in a lot of these situations with these mass shooters that there were flags there where people were like, oh, I should have said something. Oh, yeah, he did say that. His nickname, the Uvalde shooter's nickname was school shooter. Like, this is not okay. That is his nickname at his job that he had at the fast food restaurant. If we know these things are going on.
That's one hell of a flag, Lise. Lord have mercy. That's one hell of a flag. I didn't know that.
Yes.
Wow.
They called a dude school shooter, and then you wonder why he lived up to his name.
Wow.
I don't understand. There were so many different flags that were there that we just ignored. Same thing in
You know
Buffalo.
why, Elise, real quick. You know why? Because we don't tend to believe that people can be evil.
How the DC
We don't take
sniper
people.
had-
We don't take people on face value.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? If somebody, who was it, Dr. Maya Angelou? If somebody show you who they are, believe them. Isn't that the one she want to attribute it to that? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like now in this day and time, we don't have the liberty.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have the space to just say, to allow people to talk the way they talk and do it the way they do and not think this person is a little off.
Right.
This person believes that. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, all of it, because now everybody is quote unquote so authentic and so real. Okay, you so authentic and so real, you're a problem. If I'm calling you school shooter, right, because you are showing me tendencies, characteristics. You have some, you know, the things that you talk about, the way that you present yourself, how you engage with people. You know, I mean, we and I'm not saying that you can't think the best of people. I'm not saying that at all. But this is 2022.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And it's like, as much it is the actions of other people that has brought this type of misery and pain and trauma, it is our own denial about a situation.
I think
We just don't want to believe that the people are the way they are. We just like, man, no, he's a good kid. Like my wife worked in the mental health and educational space, and she said that whole he's a good kid is always attributed to young white men, but when it gets to us, you know, we get characterized a different way. But it is young white men that are shooting up the place, and this is nothing funny. This is actual fact. And so it's like we're living in a time where if you hear people talking about certain things, laughing about it, you talk about, hey man, there was a mass shooting. You're like, man, for real? What kind of gun did he have? Oh, for real? I would have used this. Whoa, that's a red flag.
Yeah.
They're not showing no empathy. I mean, it's just we are in a state of denial about who people are these days.
I agree with that. I agree. And I think he was of Latin descent, though.
Latin descent, right. And I'm just saying, right. And you don't have that many Latino mass shooters.
That is true.
You just don't have it. But see, goes to show you that it's not about color. It's not about race. It's about the thinking of a person.
Right.
The poisonous thinking of a person can get into that. It can affect any one of us. You know, we talked about the DC shooter, the DC sniper. He's a black man, mass shooter.
Yeah, sniper on his t-shirt.
He's a mass shooter. Unfortunately, he got my last name. Don't do well for me on that side, but he's a mass shooter.
Yeah. But I think we have an issue just with gun culture in this country, period. And I think that we have way too many guns here. I don't know what the solution will be because America wants their guns. They're not going to let their guns go. And we have to live with the fact that we're just going to have guns here. But we do need to at least try to change the culture. I think that putting guns everywhere, it almost normalizes it. I'm not saying that, again, like that's not the solution to do that. I'm not a strategic crisis management person for the school system. But what I'm saying is I feel like it normalizes the guns and seeing it. The kids see it's like a militarization of kids. You see people walking around with guns. You see police officers. It's like, oh, this is normal. Oh, everybody should have a gun. And I'm like, we shouldn't live in a society or culture where everyone needs a gun. Yeah.
That's absolutely right. Let me go to we get a couple of thoughts from our viewers as folks are checking in to talk about this. Royna, you checked in and said it doesn't matter how many guns you have if you're scared to fire the gun. Uvalde, anyone? Yeah, that's a great point. That is a great point. Rashida, you checked in and you said that means these teachers will be gunning for our black children because they're scared of our children. I hope not. Now this is probably, I don't know, I mean, for lack of a better term, Lisa and Iman, this is the school's AR-15. No, so this is not, and again, this goes to the resource officer. So this is not like anybody can get it, but it's the conversation of having guns in the classroom gets closer and closer to possibly becoming a reality. If you bring in an AR-15 and put it in the main office, then it's only a matter of time then people are going to try to justify taking that AR-15 and bringing it into the classroom. Tiana, you said, who the hell thought this was a good idea? Were you afraid, Tiana? When you're afraid, you're not thinking through stuff. And I get that. But when you're afraid, you just react. You know what I'm saying? Your approach is reactive. Man coming in here shooting at people, let's put a gun in the school so that y'all can shoot back. Instead of locking the doors, instead of having a check-in procedure, instead of having a resource officer on campus, you know what I'm saying? Instead of having a better police department, we just throw the gun in the school. Mike, thank you so much, Tiana, for checking in. Mike, you checked in and you said special weapons and tactics are there for a reason in law enforcement. If they can't solve the issue, why would a teacher? I don't know. I don't know, Iman. I don't know why a teacher would solve that issue.
It's not going to a teacher yet again. It's going to a
resource officer. But I'm just saying the conversation is getting closer to having teachers for teachers to be armed. It's getting a little closer.
Yeah, it is. It is a possible conversation, but I don't agree that teachers should be held responsible because, again, like we've already said, they have too much on their plate already.
Yeah, absolutely. Mike Brown, you checked in. You said, how about metal detectors in every entrance of all schools and only 2 entrances open available during school hours with 2 officers on duty at every school in America?
Going to a Baltimore City school, high school, there were metal detectors. There were locked doors. There was still a way to get out and get in. If you wanted to go walk to Burger King on your lunch break or walk to the plaza on your lunch, you could do that. So they have that in place. What's next? They've done that. What's next? We had officers in the front of the school with the wands checking you as well after you already walked past the metal detectors. Now what?
I got a problem with metal detectors.
Oh, you do?
So hold on, Farajii. So then you have a problem with putting guns in the school. You got a problem with metal detectors.
No, here's the thing. Here's why I'm saying it. Here's the thing. I know you. Wait a minute. Hold on, yo. The only reason I have a problem. The only reason I have a problem is because I'm saying that's why I say we got to have a conversation. So look, we're tossing out ideas here. The only reason I think I have a problem with that is because I don't want to create an environment where my son or my daughter feels like they're going into a jail and not to school, right? Like there is something about when you quote unquote prepare yourself for the worst to happen and how that creates an energy for the worst to happen.
I can agree. Going.
You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. So I'm gonna say. Let me just say this with this remark. Like I don't know how do you balance the two. Like I say, maybe you get more resource officers, and resource officers are fine. But there's like, for example, here's what I think we need to look at. My son went to a private school. Mm-hmm. I hardly saw a police officer at the private school. Open air. May God, and I hope nothing ever happens to the students at the school, right? Open air. There's something in the thinking. Because guess what? The private schools are predominantly white private school, right? Well, in a good area, right? Mm-hmm. It's just something that people just don't think. I'm gonna run up in this predominantly white private school, especially if you're a black person. You just don't. It's like something ingrained in us. We're not running up in white neighborhoods and white schools to commit murder. We're just not doing it. We're just not doing it. And I'm not. And this is not a joke. I'm being very serious. That the conditioning of us is that we just don't do that. We know in Baltimore there are literally streets, and I'm sure they're like this in cities across this country. There are literally streets where you might have one street that divides the neighborhood. Oh, this is the white neighborhood. This is the black neighborhood. All this crime and madness is happening on the black neighborhood. But no, it's like, it's ingrained in us. You cross this street, bruh.
You can see the redlining in places like Baltimore and Philly. You can see
Philly, Chicago and Detroit. When you cross the tracks, that whole cross the tracks mentality, we're so conditioned that we just don't like the thought of it. It scares us. Like, man, I ain't running up in this neighborhood and doing no madness like that. Man, they'll shoot you and kill you, but you do it in your own black neighborhood.
But I think that's also the thing, because I think the way that we talk about school shootings is different. If it happens in a predominantly black school in an area that is higher crime, we just say somebody got shot. We don't do it the same way you would in a school that has in a better community or a lower crime community. We don't talk about it that way. It's not even like a big deal. It's just like somebody got shot and we just move on. So it's all the way that we view our schools and we view our students and the people in those communities. I think that's part of it as well.
Huge part of it. Huge part. I want to get one more. Let me get one more in. Man H, you said, let me see, make sure we got this. Man H, you talked about, okay. And them school resource officers were stereotyping our kids. Come on, y'all. You seen all them videos of cops overdoing things to our kids. Okay. Okay, so let me give that, let me pose that to my dynamic panel. If the school resource officers don't handle our children right as it is right now, Iman, how do we reconcile that?
That's a great question. And the only way to do that, I would think logically, to have maybe not parents of the students, but maybe volunteers help come in to ease that barrier, to not make it feel like it's. I've seen a school, I don't remember where it is, but it's like black men come in to volunteer. They all parents, students.
I've seen that.
Come in to help the children, you know, make sure they get to class and things like that, blah, blah, blah. Show great examples of what to do as far as how to conduct yourself in school. Other than that, I don't know. I have a different experience with resource officer. I don't have the same experience. If I got put out of class, he'd tell me, go sit down in the office until it's time for you to go to lunch. That was my experience. I didn't witness him mishandling us as brown children, but it does happen. So it's a double-edged sword. Be damned if you do, be damned if you don't. But it's, other than volunteer, it's, what else can we do?
That's and I think that with the point that you're making as we wrap up, the point is, and I think you're making an excellent point. If black men, this is where the community has to step in, right, Lise? Like if black men, black women say, all right, I'm gonna go up to the school and check and trust and believe. Let's not act like we don't know which schools have had a history of issues, right? Like a history of shootings, fights, whatever, you know, just a history of issues. Black men, we should, in our respective cities, I've seen this happen in Baltimore, I've seen this happen in other places. Black men say, you know what? We're gonna go up to the school and show a sign of strength. We're gonna change the energy up at that school, right? Black women coming up in there and do something. Like, let's not all put it on the resource officer, because a joker will think twice. A joker will think twice. You know what I'm saying? You have enough black men up there. No man, I don't care how big and bad. He ain't running up in the school now. What you doing? Hey, what you doing? We gotta see the power of our own self. Say it again, Lee. I mean, Iman.
We gotta take responsibility. We do. We gotta take it into our own hands at this point.
Absolutely, absolutely.
When we invest in ourselves, our glow, our vision, our vibe, we all shine. Together, we are black beyond measure.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds. An angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol. We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
All right, y'all. Welcome back to the second hour of the culture. Had to take me a quick break on that one, man. I know. We're gonna get through it though. I got a few issues few causes that I stand for, and one of them is that issue. So I had to we really got to talk about that. I mean, we'll talk about it again later, but I mean, man, our sisters, man, our girls, man, they deserve better from all of us. Black women, black girls, they all deserve better. They all deserve better. So we'll certainly bring up certain elements of this case as this trial continues to move ahead. But even though I get upset, it don't mean I'm gonna stop talking about it, because we gotta purge. We have to purge our community of this madness, of this disease, because it's really affecting us. If you haven't personally experienced, and I hope you never do, or if you don't know somebody that has gone through an experience of sexual abuse and violence, that weighs on your soul. I ain't talking about on your mind and just your body. I'm talking about the very essence of who you are. So that's why I'm passionate about it, just because you don't need it. It just disrupts people to the very core of who they are. So we will continue to talk about it. I don't care. I don't care how uncomfortable it might be for some of you. I don't care if you don't even support what we say on this platform. None of that matters. I'm going to talk about this. And if you're not riding with that, that's certainly fine. But at the end of the day, we got to create a space for that dark secret that has really affected and infected Black families all across this country. That secret going to be made known. I'm telling you, trust and believe me, folks, not running from that conversation. R. Kelly, Bill Cotton did not run from none of that. So if you don't want to support, that's fine. But guess what? The culture is not going to run from that. We're going to continue to talk about it. We got to move forward from it because too many Black girls, Black boys, and Black women in particular have all been affected. And I want to see us in a space of healing and growth. All right, folks. Let's shift gears a little bit here, folks. I wanted to have a conversation. I want to bring back Culture Crew member Lise Winnie, host of a Millennials Anonymous podcast. Lise is always with me when I'm getting through those moments, man.
Yeah. Yeah, we've seen a few. We've seen a few. But it's good to be passionate about.
I think I'm bad. I ain't never seen nearer. Well,
it's good to be passionate.
Hey, man, we don't play about that. We just don't play about that. But look, let's switch gears a little bit because there was a story that I saw, at least, that I thought was pretty interesting around political attire, political apparel. And there was a report that came out from Bloomberg that just announced, and take a look at this, folks. Keenan, let's put that first quote on there, that how Whole Foods restricted the workers to wear Black Lives Matter apparel because of unionization fears. This is very, very interesting, and I wanted us to have a conversation about it. According to a Bloomberg report that has just come out, it claims that Amazon-owned Whole Foods started a ban of any clothes that their workers could wear, showcasing support for Black Lives Matter movement. This is despite Amazon founder Jeff Bezos saying publicly he was for it. This is very interesting. Now, this report here looked at what happened in the summer of 2020, where Whole Foods, they instituted a ban on its workers wearing BLM apparel after workers started wearing masks and shirts. Now, a group of employees then sued the company, citing the company had previously allowed workers to wear pride flags to show support for their LGBTQ plus co-workers, and their enforcement was selective. Wow. As a result of that, Whole Foods had implemented a broader ban in October of 2020, prohibiting their employees from wearing any kind of logo, slogan, messaging, flags, or any type of symbol. Some believe this was because of customers' objections, but the report from Bloomberg alleges an internal email Whole Foods felt, based on an internal email, that Whole Foods felt that the slogan paved the way for more unionization. Wow. So my question is, looking at this, and I want to pose this to our watchers and to you, Elise, that should companies allow workers to wear political apparel? That's the first part. And then the second part, I think, is political consciousness bad for corporate America?
I think to answer your first question, it depends. So I think it depends on where you are and what you do, because it also goes both ways. So if you wear a Black Lives Matter pin, you can also wear a MAGA pin. And if you see that your nurse or your doctor or your dentist is wearing a MAGA pin, Make America Great Again pin, it might a Beluga Boys pin, it's gonna give you pause. So I think it depends on what it is and what it is that you actually do. For, because you wouldn't necessarily want a judge to wear a pin. You wouldn't, want a police officer to wear a pin, like those types of things. Or maybe you do, because that might help you out in a traffic stop. But I think that it just really depends upon what it is that you actually do. For the next question that you ask, I think that, yes, companies and organizations should be more conscious about what they're putting out in the world. They are dictating laws now. They're dictating what we are able to do, and we work for them, so they manage how much money we have. They should be more conscious about what they're putting out in the world. They should be more conscious about who they are supporting politically. I agree that they should be more involved in these issues, at least to give back, especially if you have a large amount of employees who are engaged in a certain topic. But I think that it is a slippery slope for corporations and businesses, because at the same token, as you helping one, it's capitalism. So they don't want to lose out on customers and on money. So it does put them, it's a double-edged sword, because we saw this again with Starbucks. I think Starbucks did the same thing, where you could wear the LGBTQ pins, but they didn't want you to wear the Black Lives Matter pins. So for whatever reason, the Black Lives Matter scares people, which I'm not really sure why that is, because the LGBTQ, it shouldn't be like political, it shouldn't be controversial, but it can be. So I think that it does show that we have a big issue with race in this country, or at least making sure that things are equitable. And they are afraid. Andy Jassy, who's the new CEO of Amazon, they do not want you to unionize. Jeff Bezos did not want a unionization in their company. And with Black Lives Matter, there's a big movement behind it. And I think that's where the fear was, because in 2020, things were moving, things were changing. They were pushing people to make things change. And I think that's what scared them.
See, this is why I think why the workplace is suffering right now. There are so many conversations about, the politics, the culture of workplaces, right? Because workplaces just want you to completely negate yourself at the expense of their bottom line. They want you to, you come in there and you're just a widget. You know what I mean? You just come in there and you're just another clog on the wheel. And if you want, and I'm saying this to big and small companies, if you want people to work for you, you got to give them space to be who they are, right? Now, of course, there has to be some guidelines and some boundaries on that. But and when I look at Whole Foods, most people would think that Whole Foods is this very like artsy, very liberal, very, be yourself type of space, you know what I'm saying, who welcomes the voices of all communities, whether you are Black, whether you're brown, whether you're part of LGBTQ. I mean, they probably have Stop Asian Hate posters in some of their stores and all of this stuff. But then you want to operate, you give this image that you are like this very all-inclusive, open brand, but then you want to, behind the scenes, it's like, you're super conservative, you got to wear your hair a certain way, you got to wear this type of thing. And I think that's why so many people are walking away, because we're tired of negating ourselves in the workplace. Now, I get it. Politics and religion, everybody say, those two things don't have any places in the workspace. Mm-hmm. That's fine. Most people aren't even religious anymore, to be honest with you. So that may have to change. And political, how can the CEO of any company say that they don't want their employees to be political, but your ass might be saying something political? You might stand with Donald Trump. You might stand with Joe Biden. You might put the stock into this cause, or you might not. You might invest in that cause. But it's confusing for one, and then more importantly, it disempowers people for wanting to be themselves. And I think that's the big thing about this conversation that I think, right? Like back in 2020, everybody was talking about Black Lives Matter. Everybody was some people were like, all lives matter, right? But what was the people really look at it, even with Kaepernick, it's like, it's talking about fairness. It's talking about police brutality. Why is that such a fear? That you want to talk about fairness, you want to talk about treating people equitably. Oh, I know why. Because your company ain't doing it.
Yeah.
So therefore, you don't want people to have that conscience. Like now, they start looking at the police department, then they be like, wait a minute, hold up, it's a company I'm working for. Where's the justice? so-and-so been working here for 10 years and they ain't get a raise, but this person just came through the door and they already got 2 promotions. That's not fair. Mm-hmm. So now you want people, and this is the thing, y'all can push back on it if you want to, share your thought. But I think that's part of the reason. Like, you don't want to get into a space where workers are starting to question the policies of companies. And as a result of that, you know what I mean? Now unionization talks start to happen.
It's absolutely that's absolutely the reason, because in 2020, like, this is a grassroots. The LGBTQ has been going on since the 70s and the 80s. So this is a long going, movement or cause. Whereas for Black Lives Matter, it really picked up steam, in 2020. And so they were seeing people that were really unionizing together, and they were mobilizing in order to make things fair and equitable. And you mentioned that Whole Foods seems like this very liberal, very, no shoes, flower store. But at the same time, you also have to realize, when you look at where Whole Foods is, it's in affluent white neighborhoods. This is not something that they want to see. They don't want to see that. You do have to take into account that those are their customers. They're not playing into a base that are people of color. They're not playing into a base of marginalized communities and people, mostly affluent neighborhoods that can afford to pay $15 for an orange. Those are the people that they are talking to, and they don't want to see that. And when you look at being able to unionize together, employees, they have the right to unionize, and it's protected by law. But it's a democratic process that requires that employees have the right to vote and do that. You see that Amazon has shut that down time and time and time again. And I don't know if Whole Foods was always like this, or if it changed once it actually got eaten up or merged or acquired into Amazon. That's another thing that you have to look at as well.
Yeah. Is there a concern that you think that people should have, Lise, that as much as we're in a space where how we work is constantly being redefined, that there are going to be even more restrictions on people? And the reason I'm asking that, I read a little piece just before we started the show today. Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JP Morgan, and he had a client call last week, and he was talking about remote work. Mm-hmm. And he was saying that remote work slows down people. It 2 things: that it makes decision making even harder, and it causes people to be less honest about their work. Now, with JP Morgan, for example, their thinking is they do, like, I think 40% of their workforce can do remote work, but they're asking for 60% of their workforce to come back into the office. And we're seeing more and more companies kind of really taking a very hard stance on remote work, like Elon Musk. He said, no, you need to do your time in the office and all of these things. So my point is, when we're seeing this cultural shift of working, mm-hmm. being challenged and changing, but we're starting to see even more of some of the bigger companies putting even more restrictions. How do you think that's going to pan out for the worker?
I think that we're in a gig economy, and unfortunately, I think a lot of people felt in the Great Resignation, which was, vocally put into wax by the great Beyonce with "Break My Soul." But I don't think that people realize how much the employers still impact what you do. I think a lot of people thought leaving their jobs and being free and being, a contractor was going to make them better off, and it didn't. And so I think that in the future, employees and employers have to communicate with one another in a way that works for both of them. And honestly, I don't know where they got that from, because there's been multiple studies that have shown that working from home or remote work actually increases productivity. People actually work more when they're at home.
Well,
so
I've seen that. I've heard that too. You're right. You're absolutely right.
So I don't know where he got that from. I think there's a lack of control, of course, when an employee is at home or remote and you can't watch everything that they do. But I think that this will change in the future. And I think you will see more employers offer remote work because they need to attract and attain and retain employees. Right now, it is hard to get employees to stay, and it is hard to get employees to come in and to apply for jobs. So right now, we're seeing like this holdout, which honestly, people thought that they had the upper advantage, but when they looked at the data, they did not. So it is impacting people. People are struggling even more. They don't have health care. They don't have benefits. They're not saving for retirement now. There's a lot of things that impact the workers, and the employers actually in this phase actually got more control because now they impact how much you make and control what you can and cannot do on a larger scale, because now a lot of people had to go back into the workforce and they were more desperate. So I honestly hope that we will see more of the remote work. I think we will, because it's just cheaper. The overhead cost.
No doubt. No doubt. All right, let's go to some comments from our watchers, folks checking in. Taylor, you said, do Whole Foods staff have uniforms? The end. I don't think they do.
They have aprons.
They have the apron, but I don't think they have like a whole like shirt and pants. I've seen them wear a t-shirt with the apron and some jeans on.
Yeah, I think they just.
I don't think they have like a uniform shirt though.
I don't know. I know they have aprons though.
Yeah, I definitely saw that. I did. Yeah, definitely the apron. Janine, you checked in and said, look, politics and religion don't belong in a workplace. Do your job and keep it pushing. I mean, I get it. But self-expression, like how you not going to say politics, and I'm not saying you got to go into deep, but if somebody wears a button and that offends somebody because you wear a button, oh my gosh, I'm so offended. Bruh, as soon as you walk out the door, you're going to be just completely appalled. Like wearing a button, wearing a shirt that says something should not be so offensive. Like, oh my God, can you not confront me with that messaging? I mean, I just can't take it. Like, you are some weak people. Okay. That doesn't, like, I just don't get that. I don't get that. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, but again, my thinking is, how much more do you want workers to shave off of themselves and who they are? You know what I mean? And I think that's the part about it. Yes, politics and religion can get into a very slippery slope. So we could definitely need some guidelines, but you know, you're asking for people to work longer hours or work even in spite of public health issues. You're asking, you're not paying people enough for what they're worth. You're dictating how they should, you know, act and how they should, you know, operate within a given space. And then when national moments like what we saw in 2020 come up, it could happen now, right? When national things come up, you know, you don't give people the space to just simply express themselves, especially when the CEO comes out and says, I'm publicly for it. Like, that's the most ass backwards thing.
Yeah, and in 2020, I think Jeff Bezos had stepped down or was getting ready to step down. I think Jassy was in control at that point. But I think, well, Jeff Bezos does a lot of things that contradict themselves. Let's just call it what it is. He's for the environment, but yeah, he takes down a bridge to get his boat through. Like, nothing he says really makes a ton of sense. So I'm not gonna, you know, say that, but I think that she does have a point. I think that when it comes to businesses, we are in a capitalistic society. They do not want to offend their customers and their clientele. And so they don't want you to wear anything, and anything can become political. Like if you have Save the Trees on your, like, let's say you have a Save the Trees button, somebody could look at that as political. Like, oh, they're for the Green New Deal. I don't like that. Anything can become political. And unfortunately, I think the only benefit is to not, she's kind of right, like to have that straight to the point.
But that's not, so don't put yourself, don't, you know, position your brand, your company, don't make it seem like that. Like, tell people the truth. Like, if you come here, we want you to whitewash yourself. I mean, tell people that, man. Like, don't try to position, you know, put your imaging out there like, yeah, here at this company, we stand with all people. And then the moment an employee stands with somebody, you're like, no, we didn't say those people.
I mean, but I this is just what companies do. We in capitalism. You've seen like Oscar Mayer has an all natural organic hot dog. What the hell is that? Like, you can brand yourself as whatever it is that you want it to be. If you want to be healthy, a healthy hot dog, you can do that. Like companies.
What's wrong with the healthy hot dogs, Lise? Nothing's wrong with a healthy hot dog.
A healthy hot dog, really?
Really? Oh, so hot dogs have to be unhealthy? Okay, Lise. Okay.
Really, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't make any sense at all. And so I think that in some ways that's true. Like, you do need that division between it, and we need to read our contracts, because sometimes they're telling you can't do this when it doesn't actually say that. So we do need to know what's in it. We don't read it, we just sign it. And sometimes it's like, that's not a part of my job. When you signed a contract and you're like, oh, but it is. So that's another part of it. And I think that's why we do need unions, and we do need to unionize because of things like this, where the union can come in and say, hey, well, they can wear these pins, and here's why.
Right. Okay. Mike, you checked in and said, look, complete violation of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. BLM shirts aren't political. They are humanitarian. That has been politicized by the far right, Farajii. They could have. I mean, look, again, BLM is one of those conversations. I think it's an organization and a conversation that just brings up a lot of different viewpoints, right? So, and like, if you just like, if you say all lives matter, it might not be as controversial. It could be.
No, it is. Just say all lives matter anywhere it is. I guarantee you. Parents just pop up out the trees.
I'm not saying I agree with it. I disagree. I'm just saying, like, you know, I think companies need to figure out like the best way to navigate through these very highly charged political, you know, times that we're in right now. I think companies need to also figure out, okay, how do I empower my employees so that way they don't feel like that when they're coming to work, and I know some people say, well, when you come to work, you're supposed to just do your job. But if you think about the amount of time that we spend at our jobs, and there are a number of there's a bunch of data around this, we spend more time at our job than we do at home.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are denying who you are for the majority of your day, 5-6 days a week, how are you going to feel if you worked at a job at 1 year or 2 years or 5 years? You're going to not feel, you're going to be a shell of your former self. You're going to be so conditioned to deny who you are. You're going to be so conditioned to not think about the way the world is working. Like, there has to be a balance between that. You can't, jobs shouldn't expect all of you. And you know, you ever, and at least I'm sure you probably come across these individuals. They take their jobs so seriously. You know, they ask you to do something, and you're like, okay, I'll take it. You need to take it right now. And they're like all in for the job. And then I look back at these people and I'm thinking to myself, like, damn, you ain't got a life.
Right.
Like, when I go home, I got a whole family. I'm not thinking about the job.
Yeah. Yeah. I've met
I don't wake up. I don't go to sleep thinking about the job. Like, when I leave this place, I'm gone. Like,
right. Right. And I agree with that.
They all in on the job. And I don't think that's not healthy, nor is that realistic to expect everybody that comes through the door to be all in, working 60, 70 hours a week, you know, always available, 24 hours a day. Man, please. Yeah. In 2022? Nah, dog.
I think there should be a balance, but I think that balance is still going to upset people, because then Black Lives Matter, then you have to include the All Lives Matter people and the Dog Lives Matter people. Like, everybody's going to have something like it, and then people are going to be offended either way. I feel like it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't. And to go back to Mike's point, I don't think that it's in violation of the 1964 Civil Rights Act unless they're only targeting Black people specifically, and they're making them take, because most of them people be white to be wearing them. It's amazing now that a lot of the times, like, they co-opted the movement. Most people be white, but I think that they might be going down the slippery slope of violating the National Labor Relations Act, Section 7 and 8. But I don't think it's the Civil Rights Act.
Oh, yeah, that might be true. There we go. Rashida, you checked in. Good to hear from you, Rashida. You say these companies are quick to support the LGBTQ plus community, but not the Black community, who spends more money in these stores than any culture combined. And that's the other thing. That is the other thing, right? And that was one of the points of the lawsuits against Whole Foods. You can't be selective about who you say we can show our support for. Janine, thank you so much, Rashida, for that one. Janine, you say ethical stances don't have anything to do with politics. Either you are treating people fairly or you are not in regards to a company. Exactly. But the moment you start to think about, and I'm going back to this point, Janine, the moment you start to think about whether somebody else is treating people fairly, you're going to start to think about your own situation. Like, wow, I'm part of this company. Am I being treated fairly? And that's the fear. And that's what, and if you know, I don't know Jeff Bezos, but I know that those type of, because of his view on unionizing and some of the things I've heard him say, he just wants you to, I'm not going to paint a broad stroke with him of him being like this miserly tyrant of a boss, but not allowing your employees to express themselves, to organize, to create, because unions really help to create a better working environment, right? If you look at it, it's not always about taking down a man. It's about, I'm working for your company. I want to work under the best circumstances. I want to work with the best wages. What's wrong with that? Why is that seem to be a threat instead of an opportunity to be better?
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
I don't know. Let me see here. Nisa, you said Whole Foods is part of a major corporation, not a local farmers market co-op. So I expect nothing less. They are enforcing their worldview. And if we want to express ours, it's simple. Don't work for them. Bing bong.
True. That's very
and people say, well, if you sign the agreement, if you sign your company contract, we're talking about hourly work here, folks. We're not talking about salary work. We're talking about people who are on the store floors. We're talking about hourly workers. You're expecting, again, don't expect people to give up all of themselves, all of their time, all of their insight, all of their talents for hourly work. So you expect people and you pay them $12 an hour. Okay, might pay them $15 an hour. That still ain't enough.
Or minimum wage hourly work, because you could get paid $100 an hour, but which is a lot of money. But minimum wage hourly workers should have some freedoms, something to keep them there. You want your employees to work hard for you and to work for a long period of time. They're not gonna do that. Yeah, they're not going to do that if they feel stifled and they can't eat and they can't have vacation.
So you're going to stifle my self-expression. You're going to pay me this BS wage, right? Mm-hmm. And you want me to come to work every day and have a smile for people who are quote unquote complaining about who I am and how I do my job. But you want me to smile. You want me to smile.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Please. That's why I'm sure you probably read this too, Lise. That's why millennials and Gen Xers and all them folks are just saying, no, we're not doing it. You get 1 year of my life, 2 years max. Then I'm on to the next thing.
Yeah, and I think you're gonna kind of go into that later on in the show about them kind of like slowly putting up the church finger and walking out the door. So.
We got to talk about that. Let's talk about that. All right, look, I got to take a quick pause. When we come back, let's talk about a phenomenon that you may not have known is a phenomenon, but you actually probably have actually done it yourself. Have you started quiet quitting at your job? You might be wondering, what is that? I'll share with you the details. I know Lisa's done it at her job. I could just tell she's one of them quiet quitters. Let me tell you, I'm a quiet quitter as well. So are you a quiet quitter? We'll have that conversation. And of course, I got trends, posts, and doing posts. So stay with us. That's all coming at you in the final few minutes of today's show here on The Culture, right here on the Black Star Network.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
When we invest in ourselves, we all shine. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
When we invest in ourselves, we're investing in what's next for all of us. Growing, creating, making moves that move us all forward. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds. As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance.
We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. Welcome back to the show. All right, now let's have a conversation about Airbnb. If you're like me, as you're traveling and you're moving around, you know, sometimes the hotel decision, making a decision to be at a hotel, could now consider what Nurse Alice Benjamin shared with us about cleanliness. Man, it's going to have us thinking twice about hotel stays. But if you have been like me, you know, you find that sometimes hotels can be pretty costly. I mean, really, really costly, to be honest. And now a lot of people have decided to use Airbnb, which are pretty much more like apartments and homes to accommodate their needs. Folks have found that Airbnbs are more amenable to families. You know, they bring you a certain level of comfort when you're traveling. You have more amenities at your disposal. Well, what about when now it seems to be a trend where Airbnb superhosts and hosts are selling us wolf tickets, meaning that they describe this place as being fantastic. They describe this place as being this and having that, and you will be close to this, and all of those things are happening, only for you to find that once you get there, guess what, folks? It is not like what they describe. Here's the situation. This happened to as one superhost was recently exposed by a TikTok user for telling people that that they were going to have access to a state-of-the-art place. Take a look at this, folks. TikTok exposed this Airbnb host for listing slave quarters. Slave quarters as a cozy stay. The spot had a 4.97 rating, folks, and 68 reviews, which were mostly submitted by white people. This was an Airbnb called the Panther Burn College at Belmont Plantation. Man, oh man, the Panther Burn Cottage, excuse me. And there, the superhost there his name was Brad. He listed the cabin as a 2-guest, 1-bed, and private bath stay. Aside from the fancy LCD smart TV, Netflix access, and other modern amenities, the description of the place includes a watered-down account of the history of the location. According to the Post, it read this: this particular structure, the Panther Burn Cabin, is an 1830 slave cabin from the extant Panther Burn Plantation to the south of Belmont. It has also been used as a tenant sharecropper's cabin and a medical office for local farmers and their families. Wait a minute. So we're using slave quarters now as Airbnbs? You mean to tell me that in 2022, the race question, the race conversation has become so crazy that the places where our people were enslaved are now being used as an Airbnb location with Netflix access? I want to bring in my brother Shinedu Wakofor, who is a diversity inclusion specialist and equity specialist, to talk to us about what is really happening and more importantly, the impact on race, the conversation of race as it relates to this issue. Brother Shinedu, I appreciate you being with us this afternoon.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Brother Shinedu, what the hell is going on?
I just think this is just another example of America's insatiable lust to capitalize off of trauma. You would not see an Airbnb opening up in Auschwitz or any other place that holds a sacred space in the lives of people. I think this is one of those things that make me think about when African Americans say, can we address the impacts of slavery? This is not what we're talking about. And there seems to be some obsession, some zeal, some urge, some lust for tampering with sacred grounds, places that should not even be stepped upon, which reminds me that America maybe hasn't learned her lesson from, you see America apologizing to, we see that Pope Francis was recently in, I think, Alberta, Canada, where he apologized to Indigenous people for not only the atrocities that the Catholic Church has accorded to them, but about sacred grounds that were taken. And America makes that same statement as well when it comes to native land. But then you see something like this and ask yourself, is it just lip service? This is very disturbing, and I think it's very telling in many things that we see in modern day America.
Yeah, I mean, it's disturbing and telling, and one of the big things that that I'm concerned with is that now that the history, the pain, the trauma of a people continues to be, like you say, to be capitalized, it continues to be washed over. It continues to be, fodder for amusement. And this is the thing. In this country, we have been having these conversations about critical race theory, right, Shinedu? And so many people have been like, oh man, we need to have this stuff in schools. But I'm starting to become more and more convinced, and I don't know about anyone else, but I'm starting to become more and more convinced America doesn't care about history. It doesn't care about what the experiences of a people really are or have been. It doesn't care about that stuff. And I don't know, it's not just, and I mean, we can act as if there is a real sacred space or there is an acknowledgement of people's history. But when you start to see something of this magnitude happening, you ask yourself, like, you know, is it a moot point for us to even have a conversation about, you know, including history? Because it's not just about teaching it. I mean, if you are in America, whether you're white or black, Asian, Latino, if you are in this country, you mean to tell me you don't know anything that you were never taught about the transatlantic slave trade? You were never taught that black people were enslaved in the southern parts and in other parts of this country. You mean to tell me you are just that completely oblivious? It's just hard for me to believe. Or is it just the simple fact that you don't care? You don't care about the history. You don't care about the pain. You don't care about the trauma. You don't care about, you know, desecrating sacred ground and using it for capital means. I'm starting to see people for who they are rather than who I hope for them to be. Talk to me, Sinead.
Yeah, I think education is the least of the worry, because we were educated to understand that Confederate states lost the battle. However, there's still some level of reverence towards Confederacy and that flag, and you see people who carry it, they carry it with so much respect, honor, and valor. It's just a simple thought of America being very choosy, if you will, towards the history that they think is the one that you should care about. Hence the critical race theory conversation. There's parts of our history that America just does not have an interest in respecting. They'll make mentions of Martin Luther King's speeches, but put no actions towards the words he pontificated. And that just has been America. And quoting Martin Luther King's words, you know, he famously said, you know, be true to what you said on paper. America says one thing and clearly does another. I just think this situation is heinous. I'm glad Airbnb is taking the correct steps, I'm hoping, to solve this matter amicably. But get off of Airbnb for a second. An American, a human being, thought that it would be prudent to rent out a slave quarters that were used to treat people like cattle. And we see America make, back to my example of the Confederacy, when we wanted to take statues down within the last 2 or 3 years, you saw so much people make reverence and say, no, there's no way this could happen. But you don't promote the freedom and respect of America if you do one thing on the left and don't follow the other on the right. To me, it speaks highly on the lack of respect that people have for the struggle that Black people made and the enjoyment. I'm sorry, if you ask me, I would conflate this to the enjoyment that white people used to have of watching Black people get lynched. I don't see a difference here.
Brother, I mean, definitely, I definitely get the same vibe, and I think that is the most, that's one of the perfect analogies. It's like, hey, people's pain is you know what I mean, some type of circus act, you know what I mean? Like, oh yeah. I mean, when you look at what's actually being said about this Airbnb and some of the reviews that came in, I mean, and I can't tell, Brother Sinead, whether these are real reviews or they, you know, or not. But some of the reviews from white people say, oh, this was memorable. Highly recommend watching the sunset. One review said, another review said, enjoyed everything about our stay, the cottage, the history, the tour, breakfast, all of it was great. And then another review called it a delightful place to step into history. Now, and see, when you're talking about making mockery of a people's pain, one of the most traumatic events in American history. But then you want us to believe that you want us to believe that you're trying to move forward, that you really care. That message get lost in the laughing and the mockery that you make of our experience. That gets lost because guess what? You've shown that you don't care. And the silliness here, to add to that, Brother Sinedu, the silliness is that some Black folks will still try to defend some of this thinking. And I always tell people, like, yeah, white supremacy is such a poisonous philosophy and ideology that it can turn people into almost like beasts. You know what I'm saying? It just makes people other than themselves and exhibit savage thinking and savage behavior, that you gloat in the hurt and the pain of another person or another people, that you think it's funny that we went through that experience. But then you get all up in your feelings when you hear Black people talk hard about white people. So I just don't understand it. It's hard for me to reconcile, bro. You know what I mean? It's hard for me to, and it's hard for, you know, as a student of history, it's hard for me to be like, well, they just don't know no better. No. I truly believe, and you please, Brother Sinedu, you know, you can definitely check me. In 2022, if you are still exhibiting this level of ignorance about history, it's not because you've never been taught. It's because you choose to be in that space. It's not that you haven't had a chance to learn. You choose to be in that space. That's what I'm getting, bro. That's what I'm getting.
Yeah, I've always had this strange concern about, you know, some of these things, and I would be hard pressed, since, you know, the reviews spoke highly on a historical significance. I'd be highly pressed to know how many of these people have came to the Blacks in Wax Museum here in Baltimore, or the Museum of African American History designed by David Ajayi in DC, and how many of them would want to sleep there? Because it's one thing to go to a house and say, oh yeah, it's for historical significance. I don't think in those houses, I could be corrected, that they have the graphic explanation of really what took place. But I think I fancy this around how people like to go to a haunted place, or a place that has some type of paranormal activity. It's a thrill. And that is very dangerous when you get thrilled by the trauma of other people. And I brought up museums because, again, I want to see who wants to go. If you haven't been, I want to see who wants to go to the basement of the Blacks in Wax Museum and sleep there, of any race. Or better yet, the question is, why are you doing that? There is, let me give you an example. There is Colonial Williamsburg here in the eastern region of the States that is very much known for a lot of American history. I think the Battle of Appomattox was fought not too long from Colonial Williamsburg. And what I find very respectful is they will have places for you to find refuge that are not on those sacred lands. My question is, why do you want to sleep there? What then is your gain? And then you say things about watching the sunset. The people who lived there, who suffered there, they weren't enjoying the sunset. The sun and the moon were their navigational tools to find their ways to freedom. So to trivialize this pain into it's not that big of a deal, it makes me laugh. And if you want to be a student of history, if you are interested of historical significance, may I suggest that for ethnographic research purposes, maybe you move into West Baltimore or on Slauson Avenue, so you can get into current history of what's happening. If you're so interested in knowing the history, let's not always look at what was. Let's go see what is. And if you're really interested, move into those areas. But in those areas, those same people would run out of fear of what could currently befall them. So I call bullshit, first and foremost, that this is just yet another ploy or play in white people's affinity. And Dr. Frances Cress Welsing talked about this, the affinity of white people to be obsessed over blackness as a sense of a commodity. Right back to how much of the funds of that Airbnb is going back to black preservation or black change agent organizations? These are all questions that I'm just curious to know.
All questions. All questions. These are very, very serious questions, Brother Shanadu. You know what I'm saying? Like, at the end of the day, these are very serious questions. And it's not just about Airbnb, because this is just like I said, that's just a platform that people use. But the level of ignorance underneath all of the Airbnb drama is the fact that, as much as we want to believe, and I generally don't like to talk about certain stories like this, right? I don't like, because the race conversation can become a very circular conversation. We can talk about the craziness that white people, the things that white people say, the things that white people do. We get all riled up, we get all upset and mad, and then what? It becomes like this, like, all right, we get mad, all right, then we calm down, and then, without any radical change to how we are, right? To radical change in our behavior, radical change to policy. So unless we're going to move the needle forward, I think that's important. The reason I brought this particular story up is because of, one, what we're seeing in the level of fraud that is on these spaces, right? That was once used, it's a simple thing. Hey, you want to rent out a space? You can rent out a space. You don't have to go to a hotel. Now it becomes this racial thing. And now we have to have a conversation about the sensitivity of Airbnb hosts of certain places. Now we got to have a conversation about which spaces are off limits to rent. You know what I mean? Like, and people, and this is the poison. I'm going back to this, Brother Shanadu. This is why when we have conversations about race, the poison of white supremacy penetrates and oozes in every single aspect of life. All we were simply talking about is renting a place to have when we go on vacation, when we go out of town. Now, as Black folks, we got to look to see if the damn superhost is a racist.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't run away from this. And guess what? It's not on Black people to fix. How can the oppressed be charged with fixing the oppressor? We don't have any power, quote unquote. We got power, but I'm saying you got no. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. And we got to get out of the thinking and put it the back right on to other white people and say, get your man. You gotta, if you are a good intentioned, conscious white person that you are sick and tired of racism just as much as we're sick and tired of racism, then you better get your man, get your woman. Because we can deal with them, but you may not like the outcome. And if we deal with them the way we want to deal with them, you may be like, well, you want to slow that thing down. You know what I'm saying? Like, because we this is a different generation. This is a different time. We're not going to keep doing this. I'm not passing this madness and this garbage on to my children, man. Mm-hmm. This thing's got to end. Mm-hmm. I mean, just keep it real. This thing's got to end, Brother Shanadu. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're not dealing with this. This shit got to end, man.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We lost too many good Black people to racist acts, to racist policies, to mockery, to racism, mating jokes. This shit has got to end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if I may, I would even put a charge out there. If folks are so interested in history, like, I would like to see that same energy to push towards critical race theory, to push towards things of that nature, since you are so interested in history, because, you know, in my opinion, history is sometimes forgotten when it pertains to certain people, but it's just, again, and I think a lot of times it's been my experience, I would say, that white people love to get a charge out of Black people. And again, I'm attributing that to what I see when police call a Black person boy, or to when slave masters used to whip the enslaved. It was a charge. It was an excitement. The same way that somebody could write a review like that, that seems so joyous and jovial, it can be directly attributed to their ancestral foolishness that existed in this country and exists in this country. And furthermore, you know, I think about an article written by a Black woman, Deneen Brown, with the Washington Post. I helped her co-author that article, and she was talking about the traumas that people see, that Black people, when we watch a Black body being shot in the street by police, what that does to Black people mentally, and how there's a belief that that experience, excuse me, is DNA altering, right? Just like they say slavery is. So to see somebody to then go into that space of unhealed trauma and similarly do the same thing. There are Black people that don't even want to step foot on a plantation because the magnitude of what took place is so heavy. But to be white is to have that sense of authority that makes you feel like you can go anywhere. And that is a geopolitical issue. It's not just about racism. It's this idea. It's funny. They told us in Pocahontas, they said, you think you own whatever land you land on. The earth is a dead thing you can claim. White people have this belief that they can go anywhere, that no place is off limits. And for as long as we, unfortunately oppressed, in my opinion, for as long as we make that okay, of course we can't change them, but we must put the emphasis that you can't cross this. There is a reason why you can't rent out a place in Auschwitz, because the folks that went through the Holocaust stand by that this could not happen again, and no one could step foot in this space unless it's out of reverence and reverence alone. I think Black folks, it's not our fault, but it might be time, like you said, that we have to quote unquote check our mans and say that this cannot happen. And that I don't like to instill fear, but fear seems to be the only language that white people understand, that you cannot step here. And if you do, ellipses, ellipses, ellipses.
Facts. All right, let me take a couple of comments because people are checking in on this. Janae, you posted a comment, say Ryan Coogler and Jordan Peele need to make a movie of us enslaving whites, and we can say we just want to play it out and make it a #1 hit. Let's role reverse, since they want to know what it was like. I mean, some folks might laugh at that, but you know, that is, and Sinead, you know, like I know, that is one of the top fears, that if we were to reverse, you know, if we were to get into a more powerful position, that we would do unto them as they have done unto us. That's a fear. And I'm not saying for every white person, that's not the case, but I'm saying that because here's why that's a fear. They know, the whole world knows in particular, that in this country, Black people are waking up. Black people are waking up. Now, some of us may not, and I'm saying some of Black folks may not believe that, bro, But the reality is there is a conscience that has emerged on the scene today. And that consciousness is forcing the next generation and some of the elders of this generation to say enough is enough. There is a new consciousness that's present today, and people know it. The world can see it. We are waking up. It may not be based upon your timeline, my timeline, but guess what? God's will be done. I truly believe that. I truly believe that. This ain't racism. This ain't nothing, no hatred of any time. I'm just saying the simple fact that you can't keep a people down and oppressed and ignorant for so long and not expect justice to prevail to where that people that have been oppressed for so long will not wake up from their slumber and not fight against their oppressor. You can't do it. There's no time in history of any people where they were perpetually in a slave relationship and they never woke up. America woke up to its slave place to the British. We can go through all of the other histories of this world. People know that when Black people in America in particular, when we fully say enough is enough, we wake up. That means our brother in Africa is waking up. Our brother and sister in the islands are waking up. Hell, the Black people in Europe are waking up. It's over. It's over. The day of keep making mockery of our pain is over. Let's go. Shalinda, you said they couldn't care less. We're talking about folks that we trained on everything, and they turned around and effed us. Human trafficking, raping our men, women, and children. Yeah. Yeah. David, you checked in and said, look, the slave was a commodity. Now the slave quarter is a commodity. Right. Right. And we should say something about it. Honestly, we need to say something about it. Airbnb, I don't know, and then maybe this is the other part of it on a policy side and relates to this particular issue, Brother Sinedu. But maybe Airbnb should send out somebody to do an assessment of these properties. It might be too much to do, I don't know. But if you're getting, you know, some really, you know, disturbing information about a certain property, or you're getting pictures. I mean, I don't know, Keenan, if you could pull up the picture of what the cabin look like. Just let me know, Keenan, and at least my team, let me know when you could pull up that picture and start to look at it and be like, hey, wait a minute, this don't look right. So I don't know. Mike, you checked in. Mike Green, you say, look, there is definitely a difference between a people who built pyramids and a people who built nuclear warheads. Hello. Come on. Mike, thank you, sir. Lana, my sister, you said, but Farajii, it is. We must stop spending. We let all of these companies disrespect us and shop there tomorrow. Support your own. And I ain't talking Byron Allen.
Yeah.
Hey, man. Look, man, I'm so blessed because on this platform, we got some of the most conscious people I ever came across in an online space. They know they tired too. My audience is tired. We tired of this shit, man.
Yeah.
All right, Belinda, you checked in. Good, thank you so much, Lana. Belinda, you checked in. Well, we should have known this wasn't creative thought out to share with Black people. Remember our place in the consumer spaces. Yeah. Yeah. Danita, thank you so much, Belinda. Always good to hear from you. Danita, you checked in and said, I'm so damn heated right now. Well, let me be honest. I'm heated almost every day. I know that's right. I know that's right. I know that's right. I want to, when y'all, and Keenan and Lise, when y'all get the chance, let's show that space to that Airbnb that this superhost Brad put out there. Let's show that when we get a chance, man. But It's sickening. And I'm going back to that same analogy that you said before, Sinead. You said it's so similar to what we saw back in the days when our people were getting lynched and they had pictures. There's a book that I often reference that talk about the thinking. All you got to do is a book full of pictures. One of the most powerful pictorial history books that we have, called Without Sanctuary. And in that book, you just see pictures of how the lynching of Black people in this country was a public event. Public event. Black man or woman hanging from a tree. People gathered around, smiling and laughing, eating food like it's a show. Public spectacle of killing us. So we're not dealing with, this is triggering. and you know, in medical terms, this is triggering. You make a mockery of our pain. But then if we were to respond in kind, if we made mockery of your pain, then how would you respond? Then how you would respond? Go ahead, brother. Look at this. Here we go. Look at this, y'all. Look at this. How do you post that and see this?
What's the definition of empathy again? You don't have to experience what I'm experienced to know that it was a bad experience. And I don't see the justification of why they had to sleep there to fill the history. Read, damn it. Do y'all know how to read? Read. Like, you can read. I think words are so powerful that you can read and imagine being in the place. You don't have to. They say books take you on a journey. Just looking at that, even just me seeing that, and I've seen this article a billion times now, but it triggered me. It got me stirred up. And I did want to touch on something that was one of the comments about the Jordan Peele and the film, and the comment about building pyramids rather than nuclear bombs. And I will always say this about Black people. Black people are about protection and not projection. White people have to project. They have to project. When we were building pyramids, it wasn't to destroy anything. But they, white people, have always had to build incredible things as a sense of projection. We can see it in the nation's capital with the obelisk. It's always a level of projection of something, of them explaining that they're greater, better, so on and so forth. So no, if Black people did have the opportunity, we wouldn't do that, because that's not what we do. The Negroid race, okay? When you look at the makeup of the Negroid versus the Caucasoids and the Mongoloids and the Australoids, we were not built, we were not manufactured to act in that way. Human has things that are human nature, but those type of things that white people did, it is exclusive to them. And I don't think in any world would anybody of the Black race be interested in taking up that mantle. I just don't think that.
Absolutely.
No equal playing.
Absolutely, bro. There's none. There's none. So as we close out on this part of the discussion, Brother Sinead, you know, when you're dealing with a circumstance like this, not just on the Airbnb piece, but just also dealing with the attitude about slavery, the mockery of that history. Where do we have those conversations? You know what I mean? Especially if you know, I mean, this story is a national story. So how do we have those conversations with coworkers, with neighbors? Like, you know, do Or do you recommend that we don't have these conversations in those one-on-one circumstances, and we look at it as a group circumstance? How do we take this, not just stay in a space of anger, but move it in a space of progress and some, hopefully leading to some solution?
Well, I think it's important to have the conversations, period. And I think it's important to express what pains you before you're pained. And I think that's why, for me, I would want to have a conversation with coworkers about, hey, have you, just like we'll say, hey, the new Beyonce album, or hey, the new Harry Styles album, hey, have y'all heard about this article? What is your take? Because I'm not going to teach you. What is your take? I need to hear what you know first. What do you think about this? Does this make you upset? Does this make you, okay, now I've heard what it makes you feel. What then are you going to do? Because then that tells me where, because I don't need to now bring out my quote unquote anger, disdain. I already know how I feel. It's very important that I know how you feel, because that tells me how I need to move forward with you. And, you know, conversations about race and respect will go on forever, and sovereignty about what is and what isn't. We see that with Nancy Pelosi arriving in Taiwan. That's a whole nother conversation. But the parallel is, we have to have this conversation of, why can't white people be told that they can't do something without them getting offended? There is all this talk about military spaces, Area 51, don't go there, caution, be out. You never see in them horror movies black people running up in them places, but you see them white folk always interested in discovery of what has already been discovered, right? Because that's how we got here. Discovering of new land that already had people inhabiting it. That's a whole other story. But it's important that we do have these conversations. And unfortunately, fortunately, we have to listen to the response. I don't think it's important that we always lead, because if we always lead, we're creating the narrative. I need to hear what the hell you think. Because if I know what you think, I know better how to move around you, and more importantly, move away from you.
Yeah. Absolutely, absolutely, folks. Look, we're going to, I think this could potentially trigger some more conversations, and I'm glad that one of the TikTok users decided to put this Airbnb superhost on blast. But my greatest concern is that this will become a trend, Brother Shanadu, where our sacred spaces are now used as a hotel. I hope it doesn't become a trend, but in the times and the days that we live in right now, you can't get past anything on anybody. So, I just really hope that Airbnb does this due diligence and do us justice to not allow these things to happen. And we'll certainly keep folks posted about it. We got to take a quick pause as we move forward. I just got to share with you just something that I came across today that you may not have known about the credit system and Equifax. So stay tuned for that part of the conversation right here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
When we invest in ourselves, we all shine. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
When we invest in ourselves, we're investing in what's next for all of us. Growing, creating, making moves that move us all forward. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
All right, folks, I want to share with you the story of NFL Hall of Famer Terrell Owens, who got himself in a little situation a few days ago when he was simply doing something very, very simple. And, you know, when we hear about these cases of white women calling the police or feeling like their lives are being threatened, is oftentimes rooted in some unrealistic fear. And most importantly, it creates a lot of chaos and confusion. Well, Terrell Owens wasn't having it. He went on, he used the tool that so many people have decided to use today to point out the hypocrisy and to make sure that it's on record that he's not with the shits. He had a situation where he was just simply driving to get his mail, folks. Check this out. He said this. He has an 11-minute video that he posted on his Instagram page where he documented this interaction between the police and his white neighbor who called them and made the point that Karen is real. Here's what happened. It allegedly started after he was seen driving to his mailbox in his Florida neighborhood. That's where he messed up at, Florida. Jules, that's where he messed up at, bro. That's where he messed up at, man. He's in Florida.
That sucks.
I'm sorry, bro. That's what, we had so many cases down in Florida, man. May God be with our people in Florida, boy. Damn. Look, he was driving to his mailbox in Florida, and his neighbor, I don't even know the lady's name. It was just reported she was a Karen, apparently, said that he was driving too fast down the street. She can be heard accusing Terrell Owens of harassing her and almost hitting her with the car. So she decided that she needed to bring the police into the situation. We got a video of this interaction. We got a short version of this video we want you to take a look at, folks. Check this out.
Yes, we are live. We are live, and we got the police and everything. We got the police and everything. I'm good. What's up, sir?
What's going on, folks?
I'm driving to my mailbox. She telling me I'm speeding, telling me to slow down. First of all, I didn't harass you. She telling me to slow down. I said, what do you mean slow down? I said, yo, I'm just going to the mailbox. And then she goes, get the out of the middle of the road. First of all, I didn't almost hit you. Now you're just making up stuff. No, I literally just like a Karen. You almost hit me. How did I almost hit you and I'm going to the mailbox? Yeah, I'd call you a Karen when I came over here after you said I called the police. Absolutely. Then you went on to say, oh, I'm the subject of the HOA meeting, this and that and the other. I got liens and shit on my house, this and that and the other. Then you start bringing up my status, who I was, my HBO, my VH1. You the one brought it up, lady. I did it. You did it. You did. First of all, I didn't almost hit her. Sir, no, I'm fine, sir. First of all, I didn't almost hit her.
I understand that. Just relax.
I'm not finna sit up here.
He ran the stop sign.
Well, there is no stop sign. What are you talking about?
I understand that. Where did you hit?
I wasn't, but I asked him to slow down, and he got out of his car and started harassing me. He put his car in park.
Right, because you're gonna yell at me and telling me I'm almost hit you, and I didn't.
But you didn't have to get out of your car.
You didn't have to talk to me that way either, Karen.
You're a black man approaching a white woman.
First of all, you had your boy right here, your husband right here. So first of all, I don't do that type of stuff.
Relax. You did. You put your car in park and you came at me.
First of all, I didn't come at you.
Yes, you did.
You can stop all of that, Karen.
Okay, listen.
Get out of here with all of that.
Listen, if you guys want me here, I can solve it.
He literally came after me.
Here she crying. There's Karen. Look at this. This is unbelievable. Swear to God, I've never been a part of nothing like this. I've seen it. I've seen it.
Do you have your ID?
I've seen it. Yes, I've seen it, but this is firsthand. Oh boy, as she's crying. Oh my God, this is real. This is real. This is real. Here you go. Here you go, sir. This is real. This is real. This is real. This is real. I've never seen. I've seen it, but I've never been a part of this. This is real life. And now she's crying. Her husband tried to tell her to go in the house, but no, she wanted to do the whole Karen thing. So I'm gonna be here with my camera to show everything.
Look, the only reason I'm laughing, hey Joe, the only reason I'm laughing, bro, is because, I mean, it is funny that she's screaming, "You got out your car and you came after me. You're a black man coming towards a white woman."
Right. Listen.
But check this out. Check this out. I think she knows that who he is.
Yeah.
She knew who he is. So the thing is, like, there's always, even when you see some high-profile members of the community, get into situations like this, I always think in the back of my mind, but suppose it was to be a brother that you didn't know.
Right, right.
The situation could have gone left. You know what I'm saying? Like, real quick. But because it's Terrell Owens, you know that he ain't gonna put himself in a situation where hopefully that he starts harassing and badgering and threatening a white woman on camera. Come on, man. Come on. But what do you make of this situation, man?
If you don't want your neighbors all up in the HOA meetings, all releasing your status of who you is in the neighborhood, come to death. All right, listen. I was watching this video. So when it happened, I think it was a Saturday. It was Friday or Saturday night when it happened. I just happened to be on Twitter and I scrolled past the scene. Terrell Owens was trending. So I looked at it and I'm like, okay, what's going on? Like, he good? And I saw the video and I watched the whole 11-minute thing and I'm like, this interaction is crazy. So basically, she's saying that he was saying he was driving to the mailbox. She claimed that he was speeding in the neighborhood. Okay, so let's start with the basis of because I like to layer things. So the basis is he was speeding in the neighborhood, almost hit her going to the mailbox. Then that translated to, the liens on his house and who he is and his status and what she's seen him on. And then now using it as a moment to say, all right, now I'm going to keep on continue to target you. The point that, it got out of hand is when even Terrell said, like, the husband came out to tell her that, like, hey, honey, like you doing too much. Like, let's go inside. And Terrell was agreeing with the husband and the police and whatever. And then she said, as he started walking, "Oh my God, a black man is approaching me. Now you're approaching me." Okay, now that's when she lost me. All right, that's
the tears, bro.
Yeah, like that's when you lost me. That's now you taking somebody that you're trying to, you're taking it as a threat now. So now you're trying to make him seem like he's threatening you. Clearly the man is on live, because you keep on saying you're on live. He's not imposing a threat. He's completely unarmed. He's not doing anything to you. And now you're doing the crack it out here saying, "Oh, now he's approaching me. What am I going to do?" I'm like, that's when you lost me. All right, argument done. You out of there. You out of there, shorty. And I hope he moves or she moves, because you're not going to be able to live in that space.
No, bro.
Live in a neighborhood. You can't.
Well, you can't. A couple of things have happened in these cases, right? Like, the Central Park Karen, she was charged with filing a false police report.
Mm-hmm.
There have been other moments where because it went viral on social media, like some of these white women really they had to like leave their cities or they'd leave their neighborhood. They had to move. They had to like completely fall off the grid.
As they should.
Because they were getting harassed and people just put them on blast, as a result of these interactions. So, I mean, but I'm of the thinking that this is happening still. And you know, people are checking in, and folks are saying, look, I'm glad that T.O. had recorded this. He understands it. Like he said himself, he's seen it, but he's never been a part of anything like this. And I hope and pray that T.O. learns. You know what I'm saying? Like as high profile as you are, in my Jay-Z voice, still, you still an N-word, bro.
Right.
And that's the sad reality.
Yep.
That's the sad reality for us. You know what I'm saying? Like, here you played, you are a champion, you're a Hall of Famer, you know what I'm saying? Like you are a grown-ass man, but in the eyes of this white woman, you still just an N-word that is threatening them. Let's go to let's go to what people are saying. Taylor, you checked in and said, look, self-deputized HOA Karen tried everything. Didn't she try everything, Taylor? Tried everything. Taylor, you say Karen tears are their imagined superpowers. The moment they start breaking out them tears, Jules,
right?
Threatening me. Like, your presence is a threat. Like, that's crazy. Absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. Taylor, good to hear from you again. Thank you. Danita, you said, see how the police tell him to relax first, but didn't tell her to relax? Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. He get a little bass in his voice. Man, he need to relax.
That's
all right, calm down, sir. She wilding out on him. But he needs to calm down. Yep. Karina checked in. Karina, good to hear from you, sis. You said, you're a black man coming towards a white woman. That did it for me too, Karina. That did it for me.
That's the point.
One reason why I don't care for black men that pursue white women. Yes, I'm saying it, and I don't care if you disagree.
You ain't hurt my feelings. I agree. Whatever.
You're a black man coming towards a white woman. When she said that, like, that is a violation.
I got my African American queen. I'm good.
That's a sin. You cannot be a black man stepping out the car and walking towards a white woman, because thereby you are an aggressor. And the white woman can say and call you out your name. She can say whatever about you. She can throw stuff at you. But the moment you start walking towards her, now you the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. TL, thank you, Karina. Always good to hear from you, sis. TL, you checked in. TL said it would have went left if it wasn't Terrell. Disgusting for asking Terrell for ID, AKA show me your papers. Yeah.
You know what, Farajii, though? And I'm gonna be 100% honest.
Let's go.
It's because it's Terrell. Terrell, I get it, but he did the thing that you're supposed to do as a black man. So it doesn't matter if it was Terrell, if it was Farajii, if it was me. He went live, because if we'd have heard about this hearsay and he didn't go live, then you would have questioned it, even if it was him. You get what I'm saying? So as a black man, let's just substitute Terrell for me. Nobody in this whole world knows me. I ain't famous. I ain't popular. I ain't play football. I ain't do nothing. So if it was me and I went live, the fact that I went live saved my argument. Because if I didn't go live, then it's her word versus mine, which we all know when the world has received, hers is going to stand tall, because it's going to be her opinion versus me and the way that the world works. So the fact that he went live to record this is what exactly my mindset would have been if I was in his mindset. So it doesn't matter if he had a name or not. As long as he went live to show what was happening, it's his word versus hers, because you actually see it and you actually hear it. If he did not go live, that could have been terrible for him, because then it'd be like, oh, you know, it's not like Terrell has always been in the news in a positive light. So then it would be like, oh, Terrell Owens gets in another incident.
Right.
Details. So it's like you got to look at it from the
which is why he had to protect himself.
Yes, exactly. That's what I'm saying. So it's like
he had to protect himself, bro.
Yep,
he had to protect himself.
Yes.
Hey, look, check this out. Danita checked back in and said something. I thought this was interesting. She said they should stop calling them Karen and call them Carolyn. Emmett Till's accuser.
Ooh.
Wow.
Ooh.
Wow.
Ooh. Somebody watched last week's episode.
Danita.
Somebody watched last week.
All right, Carolyn. All right, Carolyn. My name is not Carolyn. Yes, you are Carolyn Bryant. All right, Carolyn.
I got a new shirt today.
Boy.
Hey, if we're going to do this, all right, listen, I agree with that. If we're going to do this, then Spencer has to do it too, because I bought a shirt that says "Shut Up, Karen" from Spencer. So now Spencer has to come up with the "Shut Up, Carol" shirt. I'm all for it.
That's true.
I got a new
That's
shirt.
true. I like it. I like it. Carolyn. Call it Carolyn. Hey, look, the fact is, bro, Terrell did the right thing. He showed them that he was an innocent before being proven guilty, before being, blazed in social media. But he did the right thing. But guess what? The bigger fact is this stuff is still happening, folks. You would have thought that we would kind of slowly get past this a little bit.
Right.
Not at all. Not at all. So especially for us as Black men, let's keep our head on a swivel and always be cognizant of the fact that this could still happen. And it does happen, regardless of you making millions of dollars or you making $15 an hour. Guess what? Somebody is going to say that you're a threat. Right. Dang. That's what it's like to be a Black man and a Black woman in America. Dang.
When we invest in ourselves, we all shine. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
When you talk about Blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is RolandSMartin.com.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate Black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.